Will the court reporter please swear in the witness? Did you ask Milazzo how the deposition went?
I didn't.
You didn't talk to him at all?
I saw him as I was walking out of the office. We walked out. He said, I'm going to ask you a lot of questions, and that was it.
Okay. So what have you done to prepare for this deposition? Anything?
No, I spoke to State's Attorney Mike Gorman yesterday. Briefly, we did a phone conference.
I don't want to hear about that.
Okay.
I don't know where we're going. Did you review any documents or any video footage?
I did not.
Okay. Is it against the law to take pictures of a courthouse from outside?
No, not that I know.
Is it lawful to arrest somebody for taking pictures outside of a courthouse, of the courthouse?
No, not that I know.
Okay. Is there something
Okay, sorry.
It's not going to get every word if it's on video.
Okay.
Are you familiar with this case at all?
Which case?
The case that brings us here today, that you're testifying in?
Yes.
Okay, and in a nutshell, what's the case about?
I would say that Amanda Bergquist is, I guess I called you to say that she was outside videoing when she shouldn't have been. So she's saying we violated her amendment rights.
You're correct. When you say when she shouldn't have been, what does that mean? Was she doing something wrong?
Just something unusual, what us as officers would consider unusual.
Unusual, okay. Depending on where you are in the country, Mormons are unusual, right? Depending on where you are, it might be unusual to see a Mormon. Do you get to detain Mormons in those places?
I don't know if people detain Mormons. I don't know if they detain Mormons.
Would it be lawful?
I don't know.
Just because it's unusual?
No.
Okay. Is there something unlawful about recording outside of a building?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Let me ask you this. Was Ms. Bergquist doing anything illegal when she was detained?
No, I would say it was not illegal, unusual.
Okay. In order to detain somebody, what do you have to have legally? Do you know?
Now, before she answers, I know I keep stopping here, but remember, this is a sergeant, okay? This is a decorated officer. She's a sergeant. So keep that in mind.
I do not know the law legally.
Okay. Did you have any reasonable suspicion that she was committing a crime?
We had reasonable suspicion to ask her what she was doing and why she was doing it, just to get who she was and why.
You and I agree on that you had the right to ask her whatever you wanted to ask her. Did you have the right to put her in handcuffs?
For the security of the officers, yes.
Okay. What made her a threat?
Her refusing to give any information that was requested of her.
Was she legally obligated to give that information?
When an officer has asked her for security purposes to give her identity up, yes, we do have the right to ask for an identity of somebody for our safety.
Have you ever heard of something called a Terry search or a Terry frisk?
I have.
Okay, what is that?
Sergeant.
I'm not going to say exactly. I don't know.
Remember, sergeant.
Okay. Well, let me just ask you this. A police officer is allowed to go over to anybody they want, demand to see ID, and if they refuse, they get to arrest them? Is that your testimony? Or detain them?
Can you say it one more time? I'm sorry.
Sure. Police officer goes over to somebody on the street. Let's call the person Mr. Plaintiff.
Okay.
Police officer goes to Mr. Plaintiff and says, hey, let me see your ID. And Mr. Plaintiff says, no. Is the officer now allowed to put Mr. Plaintiff in handcuffs and detain him?
Or object. It's a hypothetical. It calls for speculation.
Yeah.
You can answer.
Okay. I do believe, yes, for officer safety, they do have the right to then, at least then do a pat down of the person's outer garments for their safety.
Doesn't there have to be reasonable suspicion that the person committed a criminal offense or violated a law?
Because I don't know the law exactly.
You don't know when an officer.
I don't know the law exactly. This is scary, guys.
There's a lot of detain somebody.
We can detain if there is unusual activity.
Who told you
To-
that? Oh, sorry, finish.
Okay. To gather information. Gather information.
Who decides what's unusual?
A reasonable person.
Gotcha. What was Miss Bergquist doing that was unusual? Just videoing?
Once I came out there,
Well, you put the handcuffs on her,
Interesting.
didn't you?
no,
Were you there when she got handcuffed?
I was.
You helped put the handcuffs on her?
It did not necessarily help. I was there as the other officer did it.
Did you touch Miss Bergquist at all?
If I did, I don't recall.
Okay. Was there any reasonable suspicion that she was committing a crime, yes or no?
We weren't sure what she was doing.
Okay, so if you don't know what somebody's doing, do you have reasonable suspicion that they're doing anything in particular?
No, but we have a reasonable response to ask what she was doing.
Right. Agreed. You could ask her what she's doing. And when she refuses to answer, are you now allowed to detain her?
Yes.
Who told you this? That you get to detain people who are videoing and refuse to identify themselves when asked?
In this case, are you asking me per our, which are you looking towards, are you asking just for like myself or per the sheriff's office?
Well, in this case, I'm assuming that Milazzo was calling the shots, right?
My lieutenant was there first, yes.
Your lieutenant's name is?
Lieutenant Milazzo.
Milazzo, right? Okay, now, I'm talking about in general. Who told you that you get to detain people if there's unusual activity to gather information, if they refuse to identify themselves?
Just in general, you're saying
general.
not in this case.
Was it a training?
Was an unusual case in our courthouse. We are to stop and gather information to make sure that the situation would be secure.
Right, so who told you that?
I would say my department.
When did your department tell you this?
I cannot tell you exactly. I don't know.
Is it fair to say that this policy has been in effect for at least 10 years?
Yes.
Since 9/11?
Yes.
What's your rank?
Sergeant.
How long have you been a sergeant?
I have been a sergeant 10 years. It will just be coming up on
How long
so
have you-
9.5 years.
How long have you been working for the Cook County Sheriff's Office as a law enforcement officer of some sort, in any capacity?
19 years and 10 months.
What are the Miranda rights?
Our Miranda rights. And I don't have, I would have to read them to you from a pre-written.
Okay.
Did you hear that, folks? She does not know something as basic as Miranda rights.